Hello, this is Blu Laker. This is Radio Cobra, Cobra USA, and we emanate from the studio of the Radio Tribune right here in Las Vegas, Nevada. While I want to make sure that I tell you about our magazine that comes out once a week, it's also on the internet, and you can go to Radio Tribune and pull up the weekly bulletin. It's full of good information, and we do have some great sponsors as well. So you might save yourself a lot of money by looking at these, because I realize there's lots of newspapers and other periodicals that come out, but they don't really always come out with decent savings. And savings is really the name of the game. But today, I want to talk a little bit about DNA. You know, DNA, and that's what we all have, was really interesting. Hi, Don. That DNA is found inside every cell in our body, apart from the red blood cells. Now, each cell contains roughly 2 meters of DNA. 2 meters of DNA. Humans have roughly 100 trillion cells. If you unraveled all of your DNA from all of your cells and you laid them out, the DNA and end to end, the strand would stretch from Earth to the Sun hundreds of times. The Sun is approximately 98 million miles away from Earth. Boy, I didn't think I had that much in me. You could fit 25,000 strands of DNA side by side in the width of a single adult hair. Wow. The DNA is tightly coiled and structured into 46 chromosomes. Our chromosomes are arranged in pairs. We inherit one copy of the pair from our mom and one from our dad. When chromosomes are stained, they can be quite easily recognized by their distinctive striped patterns. This is used to check whether people have the right number of chromosomes and check for any rearrangements. There are approximately 3 billion chemical letters, otherwise known as bases, in the DNA code in every cell in your body. This is a massive amount of information. It would fill 200 yellow pages in small type font. If you tried typing the whole genetic code out, typing at 200 letters per minute, it would take 29 years without taking any breaks. Wow. DNA is made up of 4 building blocks, an alphabet of 4 letters spelling out the instructions to help us grow, develop, and function. The 4 letters in DNA alphabet, A, C, G, and T, are used to carry the instructions for making all organisms. The sequence of those lethal, or those letters, holds the code, just like the order of letters that make words mean something. Each set of 3 letters corresponds to a single amino acid. Well, that's pretty interesting information, and it's really amazing to think that each one of us has all those DNA cells in each of our bodies. And I guess that's why, because there's so many of them, they can identify certain DNA characteristics for identity purposes with crimes, especially, murder, rape, all those things. And so, it's very important in establishing credibility in some cases where people have been accused falsely, and it comes out years later that the DNA didn't match and that they couldn't possibly have done it. In a lot of cases because they found somebody that it did match with who proved to be the correct person. So identification is ultra critical. And why am I talking about DNA? Because we need to establish a better way of identifying people who are here. Because if we have DNA samples of each and every person, we can do a further identity. We can do background checks, for example. We can find out if they have diseases. We can find out if they're wanted someplace in the States or in other countries. These are the things that allow us, through the identification process, to try to unwind some of those people who have been illegally, I don't want to say illegally, but who have been charged with crimes they didn't commit. It's easy for people to
call from +17027793568.
Oh, I can't believe that. Oh my goodness. Gotta turn this thing off. Hope it's off. Well, I hope I didn't blow the show. You know, again, we're talking about DNA, we're talking about identification, and the purposes for identification are that we need to be able to identify certain people who have caused great harm in this country. And I'm not just talking about illegals, I'm talking about anybody who has committed crimes and thus far gotten away with it, who need to be apprehended and punished for the crimes. It's amazing how many people who have done things that we don't find out about for years and years and years and years. And that goes right into our elected officials who have committed crimes and gotten away with it because they either have too much political power, influence, can silence those who are the accusers, and are never brought to justice. And it's a shame that we have a government that makes laws, enforces them, but not to themselves. And this is a major problem, because they can get away with murder. And in some cases they have. I'm not going to name any names at this point, but I know of some very high political persons who have actually committed murder and gotten away with it because it's been disguised. Unfortunately, we'll probably never ever clean up the entire 100% of misuse of power and authority that we've given to these elected officials. But what we can hope for is that we get people who will not breach the law, either for moral reasons, religious reasons, or just because they want to be good people. And they want to do something for the future, something for their children. And it really kind of starts with being honest. Unfortunately, honesty is not there. People have a tendency to, well, I'll just exaggerate it a little bit and turns it into a lie, and just one little word, reversing it, makes it appear innocent enough. Will we ever get to the bottom of crime, 100% no, because it's part of life, whether we like it or not. You see, there's peaks and valleys in our lives. That is to say, there's good things and bad things. And whether we want them or not, we're going to get them. And I guess in a way it's good that we have this basically check and balance, because if we were absolutely lily white, we would be a godly figure. But since we're not, since we all have sinned, if you were, then we all have to experience it. What we can hope for is that our experiences are small, that our mistakes are small, and that the majority of our time is well spent. Now, when I say that, I'm, stepping right down into the ranks of the everyday man and woman. You see, even with the very best relationship, there's always ups and downs, always peaks and valleys. And if you have a relationship that is 90% good, you got a great relationship. There are relationships that are exactly opposite, 90% bad, and that's why we wind up with so many divorce cases, because they finally reach a point where they know there cannot be reconciliation, that they've tried everything that they can. They've even sought help, but can't bring it back together. Unfortunately, that is life. Why is it that the number of people who have been married for lengthy periods of time, 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, 60 years, have been able to be successful in their relationship? It's because they communicate. That's right, they communicate. They have found out what their partner likes and doesn't like. And they have adjusted. Yes, they've had to compromise. They have had to compromise, or they would have destroyed what they had. Most of the time, we don't realize what we have until we lose it. Then when we lose it, we say, why didn't I do that? Why didn't I understand what was going on? And that's really what today is all about. Trying to understand other people's positions. Now, whether it happens to be in a personal relationship or in a relationship with other countries that we are doing business with or would like to do business with, but there are obstacles in the way. And the point being that we have that issue right now in North Korea. Do we know how serious it is? No, we really don't know yet. But is it to our benefit to strike North Korea, wipe them out? Is it going to be done without casualties and injuries for life? What are the effects going to be, the after effects? And what about the retaliatory effects if we strike them? What about the loss of human life, dignity, and people who are laid up for the rest of their lives? All these things are very serious considerations before we do anything. Not only do we need to think twice before we act, we need to think and review it, think and review it, think and review it. Make sure that whatever we do is the right thing for America. If we go with that goal in mind, then we don't have to worry about the consequences. Because what I'm saying is that we need to say, let's talk about this. What can we do to make this happen? If it's just reducing sanctions, if it's just providing additional help in terms of food, equipment, and other things, then that's what we should do, because the consequences of a war are utterly unknown. We don't know what the consequences will be. And do you think that if we struck them first, that they wouldn't retaliate? Do you think that we can cover all of their bases? And do you think that they would be alone in that endeavor? Would they maybe pick up the assistance and aid of countries like China and Russia? We don't know the answers to those things. So we have to be very cautious in our approach. We need to identify the areas for possible reconciliation. I mean, we've done it before. Yes, we had a war with Germany and Japan. They were our biggest enemies at the time. But that's been so many years ago, we have literally forgotten about that. Literally forgotten about that. Now, is that right? Is that right for us to forget the people who gave their lives for our freedom and independence? No, it's not. But at the same time, we do have to move on, and we need to figure out what it is that we can do that we can help them while helping ourselves. Now, how can you say help them and help ourselves? Well, let's just say this. If we don't have any casualties, any war memories, and the destruction of cities and towns, that is something that we need to think about, because there's always cost in bringing or resurrecting those things again. And so why do we want to take the trouble to go into this blind? Can't we bring them to the table? I think we can. I don't think God created man to be forever fighting and destroying human lives, whether it's here or abroad. The Lord has promised 1,000 years of peace. Well, does that mean that we have to wait till He comes back to earth again? I don't know. I don't think so. Because you see, the difference between us and the animal kingdom is that we have the intelligence and knowledge and the wherewithal to make things happen. But it takes a collective group of people with the same ideals and desires to accomplish that. That means that we have to get on the same page with other people, because if we don't, then they're going to, those people become our enemies, and will do whatever is necessary to try to destroy us. You know, it's not like two people getting together and having huge differences, and so much so that I don't like him or I hate him because he's this or that, okay? Well, we can build up that kind of resentment pretty easy. That resentment takes us down a different road. And is it worthwhile for us to travel down that path or try to reconcile the differences between them. And even if you don't want to be friends with that person again, to at least not burn your bridges behind you. Because when that happens, there's certainly going to be some retaliation. And that's what we're trying to stop. Well, yeah, we could kill him and that'll take care of the problem. We won't see him again. Well, yeah, I guess you could do that. But then he might have a brother, sister, aunt, uncle, or someone who didn't like what you did, and he would come after you. He or she would come after you. We see it every day in life. So the name of the game today is compromise. To make sure that we're doing the right thing at the right time. And not to use propaganda, especially false propaganda, to further our own individual thoughts. If we're only focused on ourselves, only on ourselves, do you think that's going to fly? I'll give you an example. In Israel, they've decided to build on the West Bank. And it seems the Palestinians think that that's illegal. Now, is that going to cause a lot of animosity, anger, new bombings? I believe it will. I believe that they could get these new settlements done, but they're going to antagonize the Palestinians who want their own state and their own properties. If we were over there, or if they came over here, we say the same thing. Isn't that what we're saying to these people who come into this country illegally? Wait a minute, folks. This is America. You have to have certain qualifications to come in. We're not going to let you come in here and take over. And you see how I relate Israel to this issue. You just can't take people's things from them. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's goods. Well, maybe I don't understand the whole story, but I do believe that the initial impact of that is disturbing to the Palestinians. And if you want to provoke a steam engine, it might be headed your direction. And that's why we have to be careful here. We can't do what other people have done and expect to get away with it. But what belongs to the United States belongs to the United States and its citizens. Those people who are here legally, not to somebody that wants to come in from another country, set up a house, and deprive Americans of their jobs and future. Is it important that we have a future? Oh, if not, then there's only two things that you can do. Pack up and get out. Sit back and watch the sparks fly. Or put your foot down. Well, Donald Trump has done just that. He's put his foot down in a couple of instances to show that we're not fooling around with this much longer because we really cannot afford to do it. He gave up his own salary because he didn't need the money. Didn't want the money. Well, he could have had a brand new plane for billions of dollars, but he chose not to, thus saving this country a lot of money. But can we afford to squander that money? Because that's only a couple of examples. Can we afford to squander that money to people who are not even citizens? We can't walk into other countries and do that. They won't let us in. They won't allow us to use their resources. And so why is it different here in the United States? And this gets back to today's point about DNA. You see, I was leading up to this. We need to have identification of all people here in the United States for crimes past, present, or in the future. We need to know about the background of these individuals, how far back it goes, and what was the depth of those particular parties. We see it all the time. We see people who, serial murders, for example, who go undetected for years and years and years. And we find out that they buried 20, 30 people. My God. If we would have had DNA on those individuals at the time, perhaps we could have caught them early. Maybe we could have saved some lives. Even one life would have been well worth the effort. So, today, I mentioned DNA for the specific purpose of being able to identify people, to check their backgrounds, to find out where they came from, where they were born, whether or not they have problems with their health, or carrying diseases, or any of the other things that we used to do when we had Ellis Island. Why do we have an open door policy? It's got to close. We got to keep people out of here who are not coming in legally. And there is a difference between legal and illegal, because look, they already committed crimes by coming in. Are they going to stop with that, or are they going to continue? Well, just getting into the country is one thing, but then surviving in the country is another. And if they get subsidies, they're imposing upon you, your family, and this country. They're not entitled, under any circumstances, to any of the freebies that have been taken. We need to stop it so we can reduce our deficit. To stop it in its tracks, yes, it's already bad enough, 20 trillion. That's bad enough. But are we going to continue to let it go? It will fester like a cancer that ultimately destroys this country. You have to be careful about all these protests that are going on. Who put them up to it? How did they get it organized? And why are they doing it? Are they doing it to stop progress in the United States? Are they doing it because their quote-unquote party lost? Are they doing it because they see the danger of losing their special interest lobbyists for their own agenda? Well, that's what I believe is happening. We've had it happening over the years, even all the way back to when we began. We were never able to nip it in the bud at a time, but we've had presidents who understood why we needed to make those changes. Now it's up to us to implement those changes, to make sure that America gets back on the right track. And one of the very first things we need to do is identify those people who are in this country so we know what's in their background, where they came from, what their ideology is, what, if any, problems they've had in the background, and to make sure that we're doing the very best we can to deal with the issues that are causing this country to fall down like a deck of cards. Well, this is Blu Laker. This is Cobra, USA. We emanate from the studio of Radio Tribune, and Radio Tribune has a newsletter that comes out once a week with valuable information in it. You should go online and find that. We don't send it out anymore because it's much more effective on the internet. So, until tomorrow, this is Blu Laker at Cobra USA. Have a great day.
Hi, you have reached Shan with Radio.
I'll be back, Don.